Hello everyone and welcome to Greyhammer. Today we're going to be doing an eastern glass lizard care guide. This is your eastern glass lizard, a native of Alabama, and let's get into it. Natural facts: they like to live in wetlands and pine forests. Size of 18 to 43 inches, so this is a really long legless lizard, the largest lizard in North America, I believe, in terms of length. Lifespan of 15 years. Its least concern. And you can see it lives all through this coastal region of the United States. Really cool species. But how do you take care of them? Let's get into that. So in terms of enclosures, minimum size is going to be a 4 by 2 by 2. And it's going to need a lot of burrowing area. But like the eastern box turtle, an 8 by 2 by 2 would be really great. Put lots of tunnels in there to let them explore. Um, but it is going to be a little bit on the pricier side. 579 for the 8 by 2 by 2. But if you can afford it, that will make a great enclosure for them. Lighting wise, we've got the reptile systems zoned to 24 inch. You could use a larger one as well, but it's a great options for partial pastures such as the eastern glass lizards, to live in forested areas with less sun than animals that live in more clear areas. Um, they probably would like a little bit more sun than a lot of other natives because they live in sort of more open areas, but this will be the light for them that's the best. Getting into heating, you want a basking temperature of about 90, so pretty hot. Nothing like desert species, but ambient temperature can be around 70 to 75, and night temperature down to 60. They're a pretty cool lizard. Humidity mist once to twice a day to achieve the humidity range of about 65 to 75%. So you can either use the Reptile Ring or you can use a hand mister. Then Substrate, going with the Exoterra plantation soil. Substrate can encourage the burrowing behavior. Coca core and sphagnum moss amendments are recommended to add nutrients to the soil if you're doing like a bioactive setup. Also improves drainage. Deep substrate is absolutely required for this animal's burrowing behavior, and sand clay additives can be added to help aid in this. So like I'm trying to remember the product, but just any kind of clay thing that allows you to form burrows or the animals to form burrows will really help here. I realize we're kind of going through this really, really fast. But Decor, you want a humid hide like most other creatures. So these kinds of half logs work really well. One of the things I want to try, if I was to keep this lizard, is using the gutter, the corrugated like runoff pipes from gutters. The black plastic tubes. You can get them in different sizes, but I think the standard is 4 inches. Get that and make that into different tunnels. I think would be really cool. You could like spray foam it into place, and then that could be a great hide for your lizard. It would be hard for you to get to it, but would provide a good space for your lizard. Uh, Feeding staples. You want to feed them things like dubia roaches, crickets, earthworms, mealworms, black soldier fly larvae, with some treats of hornworms, superworms, and an occasional pinky mice. They are an insectivore, so they kind of give you all the benefits of a snake, in my opinion, without you having to feed them mice. So they're not a snake, and we're going to go why they're not a snake in just a little bit. Well, let's talk a little bit more about glass lizards, because I kind of blew through this. So the reason they're called glass lizards is because they're fragile as glass. So handling should be kept to a minimum. And if you are going to handle them, go under the animal, don't come from above. They drop their tail, like or not all lizards, but a lot of lizards do. So that's why they're called glass, because if you pick it up, sometimes it seems like they shatter like glass. Their tail just snaps off. Um, really secretive, so you want to give them plenty of like leaf litter, things like that. You don't want to force handle them, or they might be skittish on feeding. So just be careful with that. Typically, things like mealworms and hornworms and silkworms are great at getting things to eat because they wriggle around. Um, the species, again, it drops its tail and can regenerate it. Uses that as a defense mechanism against predators. You can see they go up all the way. So I live in Alabama for people who don't know. They go all the way up into looks like Birmingham area, if I'd have to guess. I've never seen one. I would love to. Um, but that mainly enjoy this coastal plain, drier, sandy areas. So that's why sand can be really useful for your habitat. But they do like this, and again, they also like wetlands. So things like peat moss and stuff like that would be also a great addition. Like to do a bog habitat would be really, really cool. But we're still going to keep it short. I think that's going to be kind of standard at this point, 10 to 15 minutes. But upfront cost, you can get it to about $500, including all of this. Now, you should be spending more than this because like this shouldn't be your only decor. But this probably could be your only decor if you really, really like budgeted it out. But you should really, really do better than this. This is just minimum of what you're going to need initially. This isn't even including the animal, and it's not including feeding. Dust, because it's an insectivore, you will need to dust some calcium. I would suggest vitamin A as well, because so just a vitamin mix that you dust just to make sure that your insects are well taken, are well nutritious, and gut load your insects as well. Um, but let's get into what is the difference between a snake and a lizard, because this species kind of makes it difficult to tell. So the first thing is that snakes, if you notice, have no eyelids, and lizards generally have eyelids. Geckos don't, or at least most species of geckos don't, and that's why they have to lick their eyes to moisturize it. But snakes do technically have a clear covering for their eye, so their lid is just clear, but they don't have eyelids that they can close. So that's one way of telling. But like, you're kind of getting close to be able to tell that. Which I mean, these differences are kind of subtle. So another one you can see. So this is a Sheltopusik, which is a European legless lizard. Apologies for my phone. You can see they have a distinct lateral line going down the body. All legless lizards will have this. No lateral line here. There's no line that you can see that indents into the body. I don't know why I keep showing pit vipers as a great showing of snake, but they look cool. So, snake versus lizard. Speaking of which, another pit viper. Let me know in the comments if you know what kind of snake this is, without looking it up. I want to say it, but you can kind of see like right here-ish. It's kind of hard to tell, but there is in fact a tail on a snake. It's easier to tell from the underside, because that's where the cloaca will be, and that's where the start of the tail would be after that. But with snakes, you've got a long body and a short tail, and with most lizards, you've got a short body and a long tail. Legless lizards kind of break this rule a little bit, but they still have a long tail compared to these kinds of snakes. So keep that in mind. And here's another one that's a sure sign. No ears on snakes. They have no external ears, and lizards do have external ears. how do snakes hear things? Because they can't actually sort of hear things. They sense vibrations in the ground and in the air in their bones, and that kind of goes into their internal ear, and they can kind of sort of hear things. It's really interesting. This is a beautiful snake, by the way. Um, and this is the, while it may also be known as the European legless lizard, its proper name is the Sheltopusik. Um, when I volunteered at the zoo here, we had a Sheltopusik, though it hid most of the time. But really cool animal. Also, when they move, you can see that legless lizards are not as coordinated as snakes. Um, they'll kind of just wiggle their way along instead of snakes' kind of serpentine pattern. Um, so legless lizards just aren't as good at doing it as snakes. Snakes and lizards are closely related, or they're in squamata. Um, but those are kind of the differences. Why do I say legs? Well, legs are not a distinctive feature of lizards, as we've already shown, and some snakes have legs. Very tiny ones, the only back legs, but pythons do in fact have two back legs that they use to help them with mating. Um, so, fun fact for you there. But that's going to be it for this episode. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Let me know what snake species that was. And I'll see you later. Bye.